It was the first week of November, 2025. A cold, sharp wind sliced through the streets of Manchester, carrying with it the restless whispers of a giant that had been sleeping far too long. Outside Old Trafford, the leaves had begun to turn red, the same red that once symbolized fear across Europe. But now, it symbolized memory, longing, a deep ache for something that had been lost. Inside the stadium, the air itself felt heavy, not with pressure, not with excitement, but with the weight of a question every fan had been asking for 10 painful years. When will Manchester United finally become Manchester United again? They were 7th in the Premier League. Not disastrous, not impressive, just trapped in that purgatory between disappointment and fragile hope. But this story is not about a league table. This is about something deeper, something raw, something almost spiritual, a story about a club searching for its identity, and the unlikely man who helped them find it. Not with noise, not with ego, not with hype, but with silence. Bryan Mbeumo, a man who carried no glamour, but carried something far more valuable. A soul. Before the goals, before the chants, before the bright red shirt, there was a boy standing in the chill of northern France, staring at the world with eyes that held more hunger than most adults ever feel. Bryan was born in Avallon, a place far removed from the roar of stadiums or the praise of commentators. A town of narrow streets, cold mornings, people who work harder than they speak. Life was not soft. It was not famous. It was not glamorous. But it was real. And because it was real, it forged something inside him. His childhood was a battlefield of doubts and expectations. Too small, too quiet, not explosive enough, not special enough. The kind of criticisms that crush young players before they ever learn to dream. But Bryan had something unusual. He didn't need people to believe in him. He believed in himself. Still, there were nights, cold, harsh nights, where he wondered if he would make it. When coaches preferred taller kids. When academies rejected him. When friends were signed to bigger clubs, and he wasn't. Doubt became familiar. Pain became a companion. But he never stopped working. He trained not like a kid chasing a dream, but like a man preparing for war. There was something else. Something that shaped him in ways no one understood at the time. Chess. While other boys spent afternoons copying the moves of Ronaldo or Neymar, Bryan sat hunched over a chessboard, eyes sharp, mind calculating. To him, football was not chaos, not improvisation, not emotion. It was logic, strategy, punishment. He learned patience. He learned timing. He learned that one brilliant move can erase 10 mistakes, and one mistake can destroy 10 brilliant moves. This was the beginning of the player he would become. A forward who doesn't chase the ball. He hunts it, like a grandmaster who sees 3 moves ahead. At 14, Bryan joined Troyes. Not PSG, not Lyon, not Marseille. Troyes, a small club with a big heart. The kind of place where dreams are shaped slowly, painfully, beautifully. He played with fire, with hunger, but he wasn't a star. Coaches saw his intelligence before they saw his talent. Teammates noticed his discipline before his skill. He wasn't the fastest. He wasn't the strongest. He wasn't the flashiest. But he saw the game differently. And that difference would change everything. At 17, he faced his first real crisis. He plateaued, lost confidence, felt the world closing in. He wondered if he was wasting his time, if he would ever reach the level he dreamed of. But then came the first point of no return, the moment every epic story demands. He refused to quit. He doubled his training. He tripled his focus. He became obsessed with improvement. And the shadows that once seemed to swallow him, he used them as fuel. Then came the decision that surprised many. France or Cameroon? France had the glamour, the global spotlight, the prestige. But Cameroon had something France didn't. Meaning, heritage, identity, roots. He chose Cameroon not because it was easier, but because it was harder, because it demanded more, because it meant more. This was the second turning point in his life. A decision not made with the mind of a footballer, but with the heart of a man. It taught him responsibility, taught him pressure, taught him pride, and it prepared him for everything that came afterward. In 2019, Brentford signed him, a club most fans outside England barely knew. But this was destiny disguised as obscurity. Because at Brentford, you don't survive on talent alone. You survive on work, discipline, mentality, responsibility. This was the perfect place for Bryan Mbeumo to grow. And he grew. Slowly. Quietly. Relentlessly. He formed the legendary BMW trio with Benrahma and Watkins. Terrorized championship defenses. Helped Brentford rise to the Premier League. Then proved he belonged there. 20 goals. 7 assists. Consistency. Work rate. Intelligence. He wasn't a star. He wasn't a headline. But football purists knew. There was something special in him. Something rare. Something real. Summer 2025. Manchester United were broken. Confused. Exhausted. A club drowning in its own past. After a decade of failures, bad signings, and footballing chaos, Old Trafford was no longer a fortress. It was a memory. A relic. A museum of former greatness. And then, a transfer announcement barely made the news. Bryan Mbeumo to Manchester United. £65 million. Fans shrugged. Pundits mocked. Rivals laughed. United are finished. Why him? They signed a Brentford forward. What happened to this club? But somewhere inside Carrington, somewhere deep in the offices where people understand football, at its core, they knew the truth. United didn't need a celebrity. They needed a leader, a thinker, a warrior. They needed mind, a heart, a soul. They needed Mbeumo. Picture this. The sky over Manchester is gray and heavy. Rain drips from the edge of the roof above the player's entrance. And there he is, Mbeumo alone, carrying a small bag over his shoulder, walking toward a place where so many stars had fallen. No cameras, no crowd, no noise, just footsteps, each one echoing like destiny approaching its stage. Inside, the dressing room is silent. United's legends stare down from walls. Cantona, Rooney, Ronaldo, Giggs, Keane. Their eyes seem to whisper, "Prove you belong." He sits, ties his boots, slowly, deliberately, as if preparing a weapon, as if preparing for war. That was the moment United fans would later point to and say, it started there. Old Trafford had become something tragic, a giant that had forgotten its strength, a lion declawed, a cathedral robbed of its fire. Opponents came not with fear, but with confidence. And the fans? They clung to hope the way you cling to a photograph of better days. But on the day Mbeumo made his debut, something felt different. Something almost supernatural. Not loud, not dramatic. Subtle, quiet, like the first spark before a wildfire. It happened in the 62nd minute. United were struggling, nervous, disjointed. Then came a loose ball in midfield. Most players would chase it. But Mbeumo? He read it, like a chess player reading a move that hadn't happened yet. He darted forward, not into space, but into destiny. Bruno saw him. The pass was fired through defenders like a laser. And then, one touch, two, a finish so calm it felt impossible. The stadium froze. Everyone watching felt the same thing. This is different. It wasn't the goal. It was the intelligence, the composure, the inevitability, as if the moment had been scripted, as if he were not playing in the Premier League, but performing in a film. The numbers came quickly. 5 goals in 11 games. Assists, chances, movement that made defenders dizzy. But stats never told a story, because what mattered was deeper. He made United think again, made them move again, made them believe again. Fullbacks pushed higher. Midfielders played faster. The press finally worked. Why? Because the system now had a brain, a switch, a compass, a leader who didn't speak, but transformed everything. United's dressing room had been rotten. Egos, entitlement, pressure, self-preservation. But Mbeumo walked in differently. He didn't shout, didn't complain, didn't demand. He just worked. Harder than everyone, longer than everyone, smarter than everyone. Slowly, others followed. Not because he told them to, but because excellence forces imitation. He lifted standards, not with words, but with behavior. And that is the rarest kind of leadership. Analysts started noticing. 95th percentile in chance creation. 98th percentile in pressing efficiency. 92nd percentile in expected goals. Brilliant numbers. But the true revolution wasn't in data. It was in the invisible moments. The run that dragged 2 defenders. The press that forced a mistake. The pass before the assist. The positioning that opened lanes for others. Football is not just played. Football is influenced. And no one influenced matches more subtly, more intelligently, than Bryan Mbeumo. Every hero needs a test. Every story needs a valley. His came in December. United hit a poor run. 3 losses. Media pressure. Fans panicked. Then Mbeumo missed a penalty. A rare, painful moment. Critics attacked. Reality check. He's not elite. He's just another temporary spark. And for the first time, at United, he felt the old doubt return. The same doubt from Troyes. The same shadow from his childhood. But what did he do? Not break. Not hide. Not crumble. He trained harder. Stayed longer. Focused deeper. And then, he exploded. Late December. Old Trafford. Freezing night. United desperate for a win. The stadium felt dead. Defeated. Nervous. Then Mbeumo produced one of the finest performances of the season. A goal. An assist. A pre-assist. A defensive recovery in the 89th minute. He wasn't just attacking. He was everywhere. He was everything. And when he scored the winning goal, the stadium didn't just cheer. It roared. A roar that felt like resurrection. Like the soul of Manchester United waking up. Old Trafford began to feel alive again. Fans stood earlier. Sang louder. Believed deeper. Because they felt it. A shift. A change. A rebirth. Not led by superstar. Not led by celebrity. Not led by savior. But by a quiet forward from Brentford. A man who thought 3 moves ahead. A man who led without wanting to lead. A man who carried the mentality United had been missing for a decade. This story was never about goals. Never about stats. Never about hype. This was about mentality, identity, character, intelligence, fire. Manchester United didn't find a superstar. They found something greater. A standard. A reminder of what football truly is. A reminder of what their badge demands. A reminder of who they used to be and who they can become again. Because revolutions don't always start with noise. Sometimes they begin in silence, with a man who walks into a broken temple. Not to talk, not to promise, not to pretend, but to work, to think, to lead, to elevate. Bryan Mbeumo is not the final answer, but he is the sign, the spark, the shift, the beginning, the quiet king. He was not the hero Manchester United asked for, but he became the hero Manchester United needed. And if you, watching this right now, felt even a single heartbeat match the rhythm of this story, then don't let this moment fade. Because here on this channel, we bring football back to what it truly is. Emotion, destiny, heroes, collapse, rebirth. Stories that hit deeper than scorelines and statistics. So if you want more journeys like this, more tales that make you feel football in your chest, then subscribe, leave your like, and share this video with someone who still believes in the magic of the game. This isn't just a channel. This is a place where football becomes cinema. And you are part of this story now. Welcome to the revolution.